Week 10 of the 2023 college football season is now officially complete. We are now heading into Week 11 of the 2023 season. And what's up, sports fans? This is the Lucas Ross Sports Channel. It's time to give you my updated college football top 25 rankings here for Week 11 here as we head into the 11th weekend of the college football season. We got 3 weeks to go here in the regular season. Obviously, a lot of big-time games coming up here for the rest of the way here in the 2023 season. Going to give you my updated top 25 rankings here. We got the playoff rankings coming out tomorrow night, so I'll give you a reaction to those top 25 playoff rankings maybe tomorrow night or maybe, of course, on Wednesday. So stay tuned for that reaction video. And again, we're going to give you my top 25 rankings here for Week 11. So again, I'm mostly basing this off of resumes. I'm also basing it off of head-to-head matchups in the regular season and how teams have been playing this year and which teams have been impressing me the most. So let's get right into it here. We'll start from the bottom and work our way to the top. 21 through 25, I got Fresno State here at number 25, Liberty at number 24, James Madison at number 23. Three group of five teams here in the top 25. Fresno State is new to the top 25 here for this week. Fresno State got in here just because Air Force lost this past weekend. Air Force taking their first loss of the season of 2023 to an Army team that was not really good this year. But Fresno State, there weren't really other options out there. I know I probably could have put North Carolina here in this top 25. But, based off of those two losses in a row to really bad teams in their conference. And also, they didn't really play anybody that tough over the weekend. So that's the reason why I can't put North Carolina here in the top 25. So Fresno State here at number 25. I think they definitely deserve to be ranked. I had them early in the year ranked, but, just based off of that loss to Wyoming, they did lose that game. That was a big upset there for my top 25 and everything. So I got Fresno State here back in the top 25 for this week. Liberty took care of business against Louisiana Tech. They remain undefeated at 9-0. This has been a very impressive team in the Conference USA. James Madison here at number 23. This is another team that's been very impressive out of the group of five teams. Both of these teams, had some tough games over the weekend, but Liberty took care of business. James Madison had a pretty close one against Georgia State. So both of these teams are the only undefeated teams left remaining in the group of five teams in the country. Notre Dame at number 22, a tough loss to Clemson over the weekend. This Notre Dame team now sitting there at 7-3. I did not penalize them out of the top 25 just yet. I mean, if they do lose another game, I will put them out of the top 25, but it was just a tough game overall for this Notre Dame team. Obviously, playing on the road at Death Valley and Clemson Stadium is definitely a very tough place to play. Notre Dame, the offense just could not get it going in this one. The defense just really could not stop the Clemson offense either. The running game of Clemson really kind of told us the story that Notre Dame's defense could not really handle their running game. So Notre Dame here at number 22, sitting there at 7-3. I think this is still a really good Notre Dame team, but just based off of that performance, it just wasn't really a great performance by Notre Dame at all. Tennessee here at number 21, I got them back in the top 25. Like I said, there weren't really other options out there for the top 25 teams. UCLA lost this past week, over the weekend. I was going to keep UCLA here as a 6-3 team, but that just wasn't really enough to keep me in the top 25 for them, just based off of their performance and everything. But Tennessee, I think they've looked impressive now in the last couple of weeks. They bounced back after that Alabama loss with a win over Kentucky a couple weeks ago. Then they really blew out UConn this weekend, so I was very impressed with their offense in that game. So I got Tennessee here back in the top 25, but I don't really got them in the top 20 because they just don't have like a good enough resume to go into the top 20 for some reason. So Tennessee here at number 21 for me, sitting there at 7-2. Looking at the rest of the schedule for Tennessee coming up, they got Missouri coming up this weekend, which is a very winnable game for Tennessee. And then you got Georgia coming up, in about a couple weeks. That game really much decides the SEC East from there. And then you got, of course, Vanderbilt to end things out. So Tennessee might have a chance to finish 9-3 or 10-2, depending on who they lose to, maybe out of Missouri and Georgia. But it's very possible they can lose both of those games. So these are my rankings here from 21 through 25. All right, 16 through 20, I got Tulane here at number 20, sitting there at 8-1. I did drop them a couple spots, though, this week. They didn't really perform that well against East Carolina, but I'm not going to put them outside the top 20 because they were very competitive in that game in week number 2 of Ole Miss. I'm still giving them credit for being competitive in that game, even though they did lose that game. It's a really good loss for this Tulane team. I think this is still one of the top group of 5 teams in the country. They're sitting here at number 20 for me. I got Missouri here at number 19. Missouri, I'm not going to penalize them after that loss to Georgia, to this top team in the country. And, I looked at the AP poll yesterday, and I was very surprised that Missouri was out of the top 25. That was just a very big surprise to me that the AP poll penalized them after that loss to the top team in the country. And if you look at the scoreboard, Missouri only lost by 9 points. I thought the defense played pretty well. I know offensively they turned the ball over in the fourth quarter, and that kind of changed the game from there. But I think this is a really good Missouri team based off of that performance against Georgia. They looked really good, and now they got a really good shot against Tennessee to probably boost their resume. So I got Missouri here at number 19. If they do beat Tennessee this week, I think they have a really good shot to finish second in the SEC East this year, and we definitely can call Missouri a really big surprise team this year. Arizona at number 18, I got them ranked for the first time this year. This team definitely deserves to be ranked after the last couple weeks of what they've done. Oregon State, a big win there a couple weeks ago, and then, of course, pulling off another big upset against UCLA. They're sitting there at 6-3. I think this has been the most consistent team this year out of all the Power 5 teams, especially in the Pac-12. I think they've definitely been the most consistent team in that conference. I know there's other teams that have been out there really consistent, but I think Arizona has definitely been the most consistent team. I thought defensively they played pretty well in this game against UCLA. They played really solid defense against Oregon State as well. And just think about it. If Arizona had beaten USC in that triple overtime game, Arizona probably would have been sitting here at 7-2, and they probably would have had a chance to make a New Year's Six bowl. But Arizona here ranked for the first time this season at number 18. And then LSU here at number 17. A tough loss to Alabama over the weekend, but, this is still a really good LSU team in my opinion. I didn't really penalize them after that loss, but it's a really tough loss either way. First half I thought LSU was really performing that well, but second half it kind of was like the Florida State game early in the year. The game kind of got away from them from there. Alabama ran the football well in this game, and just LSU could not come back in this game. Now, Jaden Daniels is injured. Will he come back for this LSU team, this weekend, or will he be out for this weekend? We don't really know. I think it was just a concussion, though. I don't think it's really that of a serious injury, and I think Jaden Daniels definitely is still one of the top quarterbacks in the country based on his numbers, and I think he's definitely one of my favorites to win the Heisman Trophy. So LSU here at number 17. Again, I did not penalize them after that loss to Alabama. Oklahoma here at number 16, a tough loss to Oklahoma State for their second loss of the season. Oklahoma's playoff hopes are now over. The Big 12, championship hopes are now over for this Oklahoma team. I don't think there's any chance that Oklahoma can get to the Big 12 championship just based off of that loss to Oklahoma State, because as of right now, it's looking like Oklahoma State and Texas might play for the Big 12 championship, and I just don't really see a path for the Sooners there to make it in there to the Big 12 championship. But this is an Oklahoma team that I did predict to go to the college football playoff at the end of the year, but that was just an honest mistake there. But, Oklahoma was looking really good, but now they've lost 2 straight weeks in a row. So, tough loss again to Oklahoma State. Again, Oklahoma had so many opportunities in this game. And again, they didn't lose that badly in this game, but, Oklahoma just had so many opportunities. They turned the ball over in this game as well, so that's kind of what's cost them the game. So these are my rankings here from 16 through 20. All right, 11 through 15, as we go to the top 15, I got Kansas here at number 15. They have that win over Oklahoma. That's the reason why they're ahead of the Sooners. Kansas, this is a team that had a pretty close win against Iowa State. It wasn't their best performance, but the defense kind of held their own in that game. A very tough place to play at Iowa State. Kansas, I think they're still a really, a team that could still make it to the Big 12 championship. This team has definitely been better, a lot better than they were from last year. They're sitting there at 7-2 with a really good chance to probably make a good bowl game this year. So watch out for the Jayhawks. I think they still have a really big life ahead of them. I think when you look at the Big 12 standings, obviously it's a big tie there for that third place spot, but you just look at that second place spot. If Oklahoma State or, Texas kind of slip up somewhere, we could probably see an Oklahoma State versus Kansas matchup in the Big 12 championship, or we could see a Texas versus Kansas rematch from the regular season. Remember, Kansas's 2 losses come to both Oklahoma State and Texas, so that's the reason why they're both, they're behind both Oklahoma State and Texas. But I've been, again, very impressed with this Kansas team this year. They're definitely a top 15 team in my opinion. Then I got Utah here at number 14. Utah, I was very impressed with their offense this weekend. Finally, their offense scored a lot of points against an Arizona State team that I thought would be very competitive in that game because it's a Pac-12 game. You never know what can happen in that kind of, this conference and everything, because these teams have just beaten up on each other. So Utah's got a big game coming up this weekend against Washington. It's a road game. It's going to be a very tough place to play for this Utah team, but they're sitting here at number 14 at 7-2. Oregon State here at number 13, a very close win against Colorado. Oregon State definitely, with that loss to Arizona, but this is an Oregon State team that I just can't move all the way down to number 18 because they just won this weekend. I can't put Arizona up here because they just don't have maybe what it takes to beat all these other teams. I think they have better resumes than Arizona as well. But Oregon State looked really good this weekend. Definitely a big bounce back for them. Definitely after a loss to Arizona a couple weeks ago. But this team is now sitting there at 7-2. Number 13 overall for me. And they also have the win over Utah in the head-to-head. So that's the reason why the Beavers are ahead of the Utes. Oklahoma State, number 12 for me. I moved them up, from 20 to 12 for me. After that win over Oklahoma, that definitely boosts up their resume. And this team definitely has a chance to probably make a New Year's Six Bowl now because they're definitely that second best team in the Big 12 behind Texas. Texas just has one conference loss, but Oklahoma State has the same thing. And Oklahoma State's only loss in the Big 12 is coming to Iowa State. Remember, this team has been getting better and better each and every single game. And this team lost to South Alabama early in the year. I started to doubt Oklahoma State, but now they're really better than they were from earlier in the year. So Oklahoma State here at number 12. Again, a very big win against Oklahoma this weekend in the last game of that rivalry. Then I got Louisville here at number 11. They didn't really play anybody that tough over the weekend. They had a solid win over Virginia Tech. Louisville just keeps winning. This team now is definitely going to probably make the ACC championship. I don't really see them getting in there as a playoff team, though, because of just their one loss. And I think that definitely that bad loss to Pittsburgh doesn't put them in. So that's not a really good loss for this Louisville team. But again, they're here at number 11. And again, I've been very impressed with this Louisville team. I think they have a really good chance to probably go 11-1 or maybe 10-2 if they slip up somewhere. But again, I think this team is definitely going to go to the ACC championship game in my opinion. So these are my rankings here from 11 through 15. We go to the top 10 now, 6 through 10. I got Penn State here at number 10. I was very impressed with the offense this weekend against that Maryland defense. And I think I knew Maryland would not really compete in that game. But defensively, I thought they would, I knew they were not going to be good on that defensive side of the football, but I thought offensively Maryland would kind of give Penn State a scare, but Penn State just overall had a really good defensive game in this one, and the offense just was very explosive. Drew Aller played one of his best games, I believe, of the season as well. So Penn State here at number 10, sitting there at 8-1. This is still a playoff contender in my opinion. They still have a really good chance to win the Big Ten East, and they do have a really good opportunity to beat Michigan coming up this weekend. I did a game preview / game prediction on that game yesterday. I am picking Michigan to win that game, but it's definitely going to be a close one. And then I got Ole Miss here at number 9. Ole Miss, a very close win against Texas A&M. Texas A&M had a chance to force overtime in that game, but, a missed field goal kind of, went the other way. And Ole Miss was able to hold on for the win, so I got them here at number 9. This is a team that's sitting there at 8-1 with a very tough challenge coming up against Georgia this weekend, which I think Ole Miss has a pretty good opportunity. I mean, based off of that performance for Georgia against Missouri, I think based off of that performance, I think Ole Miss has a pretty good opportunity to give Georgia some problems on the defensive side of the football. Alabama at number 8, a very solid win against LSU, and a lot of people started to doubt this Alabama team after that South Florida game. I did the same thing, but I've just been very impressed with Alabama ever since that game. Obviously, the big win over Ole Miss really helps them out on their resume. They also have a resume win over Tennessee, which that makes it a couple top 25 wins for this Alabama team. So they're sitting here at number 8 for me. Still has a really good chance to make the playoff, as a one-loss team, but, mean, it's going to be very tough for Alabama to kind of pass Texas in the top 10 and also in the playoff race, because Texas does have the head-to-head win over Alabama in the regular season. But Alabama is now heading to the SEC championship. It looks like it's going to be Georgia versus Alabama in the SEC title game. And again, when I look at that game for Alabama and Georgia, based off of the performances, Alabama was much better than Georgia this weekend in week number 10. I just think when I look at that game, Alabama might have a real big shot to beat Georgia. But again, I might change my pick there as once we get into the conference championships and everything. And we still got 3 weeks to go, so we'll find out what happens here in the last 3 weeks. Texas here at number 7. Close win against Kansas State. It looks like Texas was going to win the game pretty easily. They went up 24-7, and then Kansas State came back on them. And, Texas was able to come away with the win. In overtime, they were able to hold on the defensive side of the football as well. It was a really close scare. Quinn Ewers still out, with an injury. He might be out for the rest of the year. You got to wonder if that's a big concern going the rest of the way here for this Texas team. Because what if they don't have him in the Big 12 championship? That will definitely be a huge loss for this Texas team. But I was still very impressed with this Texas team regardless, even though they only won by 3 in this game against Kansas State. But, Kansas State nearly came back on them and nearly gave Texas, a scare, and also their second loss of the season. So I got them here at number 7. And then I got Oregon here at number 6. This is a team that's been very dangerous in the last 3 weeks ever since that Washington loss. I think Oregon's probably been the most dangerous team in the Pac-12 ever since that loss to Washington. I think this Oregon team now has a chance to make the Pac-12 championship. They're sitting here at number 6 in my rankings, and I just been very impressed with this Oregon team. Ever since they lost to Washington, things have been going really right their way. So I got Oregon here at number 6. These are my rankings here from 6 through 10. Let's now go into the top 5. All right, so in the top 5, the same thing here. Washington at number 5. Very impressive win against USC, a big-time shootout in that game. Washington's offense really showed up in this game. I know USC does not have a great defense, but I think Washington definitely deserves a lot of credit for this game. Michael Penix played pretty well. The running back for Washington, I believe, had over 200 yards of rushing and 4 touchdowns, so Washington remains as the only undefeated Pac-12 team remaining in the Pac-12 conference. Ohio State at number 4. Not a great performance, in my opinion, against Rutgers. They were down 7-9 at the half, but they came out in that second half, played better this time. But, Ohio State, again, I was just not very impressed with their performance. Is Ohio State the number 1 team in the playoff rankings? The committee might make a change there this week. Maybe the committee will make a change here tomorrow night. But, I think Ohio State's still going to remain number 1 just because of the resume that they have. Florida State, number 3. Also, not a very good performance against Pittsburgh. Both Florida State and Ohio State did not really perform, over the weekend that well. Florida State had a pretty tough game in the first half against Pittsburgh, but, pulled away in the second half. And, that was kind of the same thing like what Ohio State did and everything. So both Florida State and Ohio State both had pretty tough games this weekend, but they're sitting here at number 3 and number 4. Michigan at number 2, a very solid win against Purdue. Michigan gave up 13 points in this game, but, I thought the defense has played really well this year, and that's the most points that they've given up all year long is 13 points. The defense has played pretty well. They got a really tough game, though, coming up this weekend against Penn State. More than likely, they could probably lose this game and probably slip up in the Big Ten standings. But I think Michigan is definitely the better overall team going into that game. It's really a tough game to call, but I did pick Michigan to win the game from yesterday in my game preview / game prediction. But I think Michigan is going to win that game. I think they'll remain undefeated, but it's going to be a very tough game. But we'll see what happens in that one. I think it's going to be a low-scoring game. But again, Michigan, we're talking about their performance against Purdue. It was a very solid performance. So they're here at number 2. And then I keep Georgia here at number 1. I know their performance against Missouri was not great, but, they were still the top team in the country, in my opinion. But again, Georgia had a pretty tough game there against Missouri, and that just tells me that Georgia could probably slip up somewhere in the rest of the year. But, this is still a team that I can, see winning out for the rest of the year. I know they got a tough schedule coming up the rest of the way. They got, of course, Ole Miss and Tennessee left on the schedule. And, they got to play back-to-back high-powered offensive teams. In back-to-back weeks, they got Ole Miss at home coming up this weekend. And then the next weekend, in week number 12, they got Tennessee on the road in Knoxville, which is going to be a very tough game. But they cannot overlook Ole Miss this weekend. If they do not bring their A game to Ole Miss, Georgia could potentially lose this game. Now, I'm not saying they're going to, but it's definitely a game that's going to go either way. I think Georgia, their defense is going to have a hard time in these last couple of weeks, against high-powered offensive teams like Tennessee and Ole Miss. But we'll see what happens. I think Georgia is still the top team in my opinion, though. Again, this team has looked good at times, but they've been inconsistent at times. But I think this is still one of the top teams in the country. So, again, my top 5 stays the same here. Georgia, Michigan, Florida State, Ohio State, and Washington. These are the only undefeated teams left remaining here in the college football season of 2023. Which teams do I see losing here? Washington could probably slip up somewhere in the Pac-12. Ohio State, their likely loss can probably come to, Michigan at the end of the year. Florida State, I see them going out undefeated for the rest of the year. Michigan, their likely loss could probably come to Penn State or Ohio State here as we get into the rest of the weeks here. And then I just see Georgia winning out. But, Georgia could probably slip up against Ole Miss this weekend. And then they could probably slip up against, of course, Tennessee next weekend. But we'll see what happens here. But again, my top 5 stays the same here. These are the only 5 undefeated Power 5 teams left here in my top 25 rankings. And again, these are the only undefeated teams as well in the country. But these are my top 25 rankings here for week number 11 of the 2023 college football season. Let me guys know what you think about these top 25 teams. Who do you think should get ranked this week here? And also give me your thoughts down in the comments below again on these top 25 rankings. Thank you for watching this video, and stay tuned here for more sports content videos on my Lucas Ross Sports channel.